So chapter 26, after one of the main points up to now being that the moyach is sholet al halev, that is where the moyach and the lev, or the nefesh bahim and the nefesh alakis, are in equal standing. However, when one is miskaver over the other, one has a much greater standing than the other one. If you're in a depressed state, if you're in an unhappy state, so then the nefesh bahima will always win. So when you're in a state of depression, when you're in a state that you're not happy, that's when the idea of sinning starts to become like a great idea. When you're in a good mood, when you're in a good state, when you're in a level of simcha and your avodas Hashem, so then you're not interested in sinning. But it's when you're in that depressed state, when your things aren't going well, when you're not happy, then the sin seems like a great idea. And it's only in that depressed state that you will enter into the sin. So chapter 26 starts the chapters about Simcha and happiness. And Simcha is not a goal in itself, but it is a means in order to do the avoda. So however, you will need to know is the klal gadol, that just because the victory, the davar gashmi, like you have two people who are fighting each other in a wrestling match, if one of them is unhappy, then he'll be beaten easily and he'll fall easily, even if he's greater than his friend. So if you have a Mike Tyson and he's fighting a Buster Douglas, and Mike Tyson's in a bad mood, he's depressed, he doesn't turn up with everything he has, even though he's a much better boxer, he's going to lose the fight. So kachamamish with the fight with the Yetzer, that it's impossible to beat it when you're in a depressed state or when you're unhappy. And when you're unhappy and then the desire to do sin starts coming, you're not going to beat it because you're unhappy. So you have this atzvus, unhappiness, and timtum alev, like an Evan. It's really, timtum alev is really parav, where you're numb. You're not excited, you're not unexcited, you're just numb about everything. So then that numbness comes in. So then again, you're numb to sinning as well. But the only way you win is with zerirus that comes from the simcha and an opening of the heart, and you become a tar from all worries and sadness in the world. Now it says in the pasuk later that all Eitzev will be mutter. So it seems from Mishlei that this is wrong, that Simcha is not a good idea. If we're saying here that Simcha is going to be the goal that will bring you to then be victorious, if you want to be a Beinuni and you want to win, again, if Avodas Hashem is your goal, so then Simcha should be your tool that you always have. You always have to be B'Simcha in order that you're going to be able to do the Avodah. But there's a pasuk that says that, look at this, how great Atzav is, how great being unhappy is. So we'll come to explain that says that there's a mutter, there's something that comes out of the Atzav, that the Atzav serves a purpose. It's not that the Atzavus itself, the unhappiness itself, is good, but by going through the unhappiness and going through the teshuvah, and then after the teshuvah, you have a restored relationship. So then you have an even greater simcha when after the teshuvah, like the simcha after Yom Kippur, that you're coming out with that repaired relationship and this closeness that gives the simcha. So you get the simcha that's coming out of the etzev. So don't say that I have a pasuk here to tell me that the unhappiness is good. No, it's not. Now a lot of the religions, the Jewish, were embracing unhappiness, embracing etzev, that we are in a time after the base of Mikdash is being destroyed, and it's also to be happy, and many of the halachas in the Shulchan Aruch reflect this, and this is a big chiddush of Chassidus to say, be happy and be happy all the time, and mitzvah gedula liot b'simcha is a quote from Rabbi Nachman. This is all Chassidus, and that the idea of always be happy is a chiddush and an alien idea to many parts of Judaism. So the tikkun of the Arizal, he starts off with the atzev when you get up at Chatzos, and then you're mourning over the destruction. Then he starts off with the atzev, with the unhappiness. He brings that pasuk with the atzev. However, that comes to bring the simcha and the simcha of the learning. So another raya that it's the atzvos that brings to the simcha, and there's no point in the atzvos itself. Don't just be a Jew that's unhappy. No, it's the simcha that comes. And after this, you're going to have many plans to show why, if you're unhappy about this, what you should do and how to have simcha. But you have to first bring out the point that the simcha is so important. We have the posuk malay. It says, because you did not serve as Hashem b'simcha. mirov kol. And everyone knows the Pirush of the Arizal on this pasuk. The Arizal here is explaining that there's no comma here. It's not, so Rashi says Asher lo avadata. Rambam says because you didn't have the avadata besimcha. And then the Arizal says, no, because you didn't serve Hashem with simcha, mirov kol, that it is your greatest simcha. What is your greatest simcha? It's serving Hashem. So there's lots of things that we have in life. And we do, and we get distracted, and then we have the learning time, and we have the davening time, and we have time we do other stuff. You're watching movies, playing games, and you're working. Where do you get your biggest simcha from? Is it the Avdus Hashem that you get your biggest simcha from? And that krivas to Hashem, and that having that relationship with Hashem. If that's where your greatest simcha is, so then that's how it will play out. But if you have simcha elsewhere, so then all the punishments will come. So then you have to ask the question, why is God being so vengeful? Like you did all the mitzvahs, and you just didn't do it simcha, or you even did it with simcha. It's just with a lesser simcha you have for playing football. Why is the punishment there? And really, it's a tautology. It's because you didn't serve. Why didn't you serve? There is no avoda here. Why is there no avoda here? Because you didn't have the simcha of the greatest simcha. When you have that greatest simcha, when you do the avoda, you're making God happy, and that's making you close to God, and you're doing His mitzvahs, you're becoming one with Him. If that's not your greatest simcha, then there is no avoda there. If your avoda is taking that part of where the way that you're doing your mitzvahs is your greatest simcha, so therefore you'll have avodas Hashem. As he goes into points and eitzes about the simcha, there's really two tracks going on here. Is that what is your goal? Is your goal to feel good about yourself? To think that you're a good person? To I am a tzaddik? Or is your goal to serve Hashem? If your goal is to serve Hashem, that's very easy to be besimcha. However, if your goal is to think that you're a good person, so then it's not going to necessarily be such an easy path. So into the next section, you get the eitzah, the advice of how to remove all unhappiness from the ways of the world, even the raising children, parnasa. And we know this from Chazal, just like you mevarach al tov, mevarach al ra. And it says the Gemara that you makabel everything b'simcha, like simchas tovas that's revealed, because gam zula tova. Now, what is this idea of gam zula tova? Gam zula tova is that I'm living my path with God. I live with God. And since I live with God and my whole life is about God, I was saying before that your greatest simcha is Avdos Hashem, so therefore this is the best for me. This is not meaning that since I like Gashmias and I like big cars and big houses, and therefore when something happens to me, and I also like ice cream, and even though I'm not having ice cream right now, Gamz L'Toiva, I'll get ice cream later. That's not what it means. It means that right here, right now, this thing that is happening to me is the best. And he's now going to explain why I don't see it in the best. Now you have, it's ein niglis veneris. So something that is revealed is a toiv that fits in my kelim. It's something that I get, something that my seichel can understand. So if you give me a bowl of ice cream, I can understand that as a toiv. If you punch me in the face, I can't understand that as a toiv. Because what I say is good is ice cream. What I say is bad is punching people in the face. So therefore, when things happen that go outside my mind, and I'm so, well, God is being bad. This is not nice. This is bad news. Now, all that means is that my brain can't compute what's going on. And if I could understand everything, so therefore I would be God, and I would do a better. If I was to run the world instead of God, it would not run as it is now, and it would be a much worse place, because God knows more what He's doing. I can't understand it. Well, that's okay, because there's two worlds here: the Alma de Escasia, which is the covered world. And then you have the Alma de Escalia, which is the revealed world. So anything that I get, anything that I'm happy with, anything that makes me happy is the Alma de Escalia. There's something that's revealed, and therefore I can chap it, I can understand it, and it works for me. However, when it's coming from the Alma de Escasia, when it's coming from the covered world, so there, I don't grasp it, I don't get it. It's not part of my hasaga. Now, the Alma de Escasia, the covered world, is closer to God, and the revealed world is further away from Him, as we have the spiritual evolution, the Hishtalshalus. So therefore the revealed world comes after the enclosed world, the covered world. anything that happens to me that I don't like is something that God is doing for me from a higher point in the relationship. It's coming from the Olam Diskasi. It's coming from the covered world. If I could understand what's coming from that point of the world, then if I understand it on my own terms, and then it wouldn't be covered because it would be revealed to me. And the fact that I don't get it by itself means that it is covered. So like a child, what does he want to eat? He wants to eat ice cream and chocolate bars. And the adult in the room, whose seichel is greater than the child, will then say you should eat healthily, have a good diet. Now, the child, it's a greater good to do healthy food rather than give him the candies. The candies will make him sick. So, but he doesn't want, he wants the candy. He wants what his mind can understand, what his seichel can understand. But the closer you are to him, the more that you will do things that go out of his seichel, because you're in this relationship where you're a seichel gadol and he's a seichel katan. So too by God, since he's a seichel gadol, kaviyachol, so therefore what he does to you, he does you things that you don't understand. That's the best thing that he can do. That when you're receiving things you can't compute, that is your closest point to God. That is where you're having this relationship to God. And even though it's difficult for you to understand it, that's where the Gam Zula Tova comes in. It says that I have this relationship with God right now. Not that something in the future will be better. No, right here, right now, what's happening to me. And the fact that I can't compute it means that it's coming from a source that's higher than me. And the fact that I have Munas Hashem and I'm in his arms right now. Therefore, I have complete trust in God. And this is the great, even though it doesn't compute, or not even though, that because it doesn't compute, because I can't make sense out of it. That's why I am feeling this krivus to Hashem, and that's why this is even better than anything that I could ever come up with, even though it's painful to me right now. Because it's coming from a place that's closer to God, that goes beyond my kalim. And therefore, instead of me interacting with God like I'm a human running around on earth, I'm able to have that closeness of krivus to the infinity of God that goes beyond my kalim. You have the revealed goods. If you have someone else's kid that you're taking care of, you're happy to give him ice cream and you're happy to do nice things for him. But to force that he has a healthy diet or to chastise him for things that he's doing, you're not going to do that type of good, the covered good, the good from the Olam Diskasi. You're not going to do for people who are not close to you. But you'll do the revealed good for people that are not close to you. So therefore, you're getting that extra krivus from Hashem. Who does God bring from the Alma Diskasia? Those who he's closest to. Because that's who you do the best thing for. Because when it doesn't seem revealed good, so therefore you don't want to do that for other people. So marshal for this is if chas v'chalila, a child gets attacked on the street, he'll have trauma from it. But if he goes with his parents to a doctor and the doctor starts stabbing him with syringes for mumps, so then this is a great taiv, and that the child is calm because he's with his parents, because he has that relationship with the parents, and even though something's happened to him, he doesn't understand. He trusts his parents. He's in that bosom, and therefore something that goes beyond his seichel, he's happy and calm with, and that's the Gam Zula Tova. So therefore, Chazal say that those who are happy with their Yisurim, and them it says that they're his loved ones, like when the sun comes out in its power, because the Simcha is that the love of the krivus Hashem, when you're coming to that closeness of Hashem, greater than all of Chayalam Hazeh, anything that happens in this world. So again, it's anything that fits in my box. This is going to be better than that. Because your greatness is greater than life. It's the life of this world, and that the krivus of Hashem. Again, is that really what you're looking for? Again, that's the Gam Zula Tova. I just want the krivus Hashem. So that krivus is in a stronger form in the Alma Diskasi, in that covered place, because that's where it's before it's shtalshel, before it's come down into the revealed. It's in the covered state, and that's where you get the highest level of krivus to Hashem. So that's the mashal here, that in Lasid Lavo, the sun will come out of its sheath, because that's where it's in a state of covering in Olam Hazeh. But in the future, so that sun is in the Olam Diskasia. So in the future, then it will be revealed, and it will come out of its covering. So therefore, it will be revealed from the world of Iskasia. So where do you live in this world? If you're living in this world in the Tzel of Hashem, So that's the oilam diskasi, and therefore in the future, therefore you'll get the sun. Because that's the bechinas itself, it's the chokhmah, not the light. Because here, if you live in the light, that's in the oilam de skalia. V'dai. Now, this is not to negate the point of sadness, and sadness does have a role. So the sadness that coming from the things of Shemayim, then you have to have an idea of what to do when you're feeling bad about a sin. And it's not when, see, if it happens during the time of avoda, so therefore you say that you put it off until later, and that you can't use this sadness that when you're doing the avoda, because again, during the avoda, you always have to be besimcha, and therefore if sadness comes during your avoda, therefore you just put it off. You make a note of it and say, I have something to deal with, and then at the Kriya Shema Alamita at nighttime, then you deal with your issues that you were sad about. A key issue here is that you control your sadness and your atzvus, but you can't let your atzvus control you. Because if you're doing your avoda, then your atzvus comes, and that will take you out of your avoda. So therefore, your atzvus is controlling you. But if you, when you sense the atzvus, so therefore you put it aside and say, I'll deal with you later, and I will deal with you on my terms and when I'm ready for you. So therefore, you're controlling your atzvus, not allowing it to control you. So when you're dealing with your atzvus later, as we see in a later chapter, it will explain there that as soon after you break your heart in these times, but again, this is you're worried about your avoda, that I did something wrong and that made God unhappy. Since God was unhappy, I'm unhappy because of that. And how am I going to repair the relationship with God with this krivus to Hashem? Not I'm a bad person for doing this, but I made God unhappy, and how am I going to improve the relationship? And then once you have improved the relationship through the atzvus, the sadness, bringing you to a better level of teshuvah, that better level of teshuvah will bring you to a higher level of simcha, because you have repaired your relationship, because God will forgive your sin. He's Rav Lislayach, and then this will bring you to a greater simcha, which again is a further proof of what he said before, that the atzvus is only a tool in order to bring you to a higher level of simcha, of where you can do the best avoda.